not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand, all other ground is sinking sand. When darkness stays in the lovely face, I rest on His unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds me in the gale. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand, all ground is sinking sand. He wrote His covenant, His blood shall hold me in drowning blood. With all the crown my soul is wet, He is all my hope and stay. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand, all ground is sinking sand. When He shall come with trumpet sound, oh, may I think in Him be found, dressed in His righteousness alone, flawless ascending for the throne. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand, all other ground is sinking sand. Your confidence is in Him. Lift your hand on the chorus, would you? On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand, all other ground is sinking sand. In sorrow He's my comfort, in trouble He will stay. He tells me every care, hallelujah, He's the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star. He's the fairest fountain down to my soul. Oh, in sorrow He's my comfort, in trouble He's my stay. He tells me every care into roll. Hallelujah, He's the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star. He's the fairest fountain down to my soul. Shake hands with somebody and say, I'm sure pleased to see you in church tonight, would you? Praise the Lord. God bless you. Let's make this little chorus, Come Holy Spirit, I need Thee, and make it our prayer. And if you've come to church tonight with some request, some need, something that's pressing in your heart, why don't you let the Lord know right now that you're putting your trust in Him. Thank the Lord to Him that He hears us when we pray. Shut everybody else out. We've only got just 3 or 4 minutes here to worship, and then we get right into our study together. So let's don't waste not one precious moment of it, all right? Would you close your eyes with me and shut everything else out? Make it a personal prayer, all of us together. Come, Holy Spirit, I need
Could we sing one more prayer? I need thee, oh, I need thee tonight, every hour. I need thee, oh, bless me now, my Savior, Lord, I come to thee. While our heads are bowed, I'm going to ask Brother Walsh if he'll come tonight and lead us to the throne of grace. Brother Walsh taught today in Christian Training Center. He's going to again tomorrow, and he's going to share with us Saturday night in our Bible study. How thankful I was to see the Bible study almost double because you responded. Not only did you hear the Word of God, but many of you said, I'm going to obey God's Word, and you came to God's house for prayer. I trust you'll do so again this Saturday night. It's making all the difference in the world. So let's believe now. Brother Walsh, would you come and lead us, please, to the throne of grace?
Our Heavenly Father, we thank Thee tonight for the great privilege that we have in being able to pray. We pray to the Father in the name of the Son by the power of the Holy Spirit. And you said, he that believeth there is a God must believe that He'll answer prayer. So we believe You answer prayer. We know this is not something you just fill up pages, but prayer changes things. And we thank Thee tonight for Your mighty power. We thank Thee for 47 years You've answered prayers for me. Thank God for the miracles You wrought in my life. Nobody can make me doubt what You answer prayer. Lord, bless everyone here tonight. If there's anyone here tonight got the devil in them, don't let them leave till the word goes out, and that'll get him. Amen.
All the people said, Amen. I don't know if you've noticed that the contractors have been in and the insurance company has made it possible for us to have a new ceiling in our church. Doesn't it look nice? And all of the woodwork that was damaged is being refinished, and even going to have the entire auditorium on the inside repainted. That's what you're smelling. And so out of bad is coming good. We're getting spring cleaning all done now. Thank the Lord for it. I'll tell you what I want you to do. Will you pray with us right now concerning what the Lord would have you to do in the offering? You hear me say it all the time. We lean to You so much, and I'm asking you tonight to help us. We need Your help in this offering. I don't want you to give just because the need's here, but you give because you love the Lord and you love His work, and then the Lord will take care of all the needs. I think the big concern that I have is that there may be some of us in the room tonight that are not really careful about our worship to the Lord in our giving, and we therefore shut the windows of heaven up on our own hearts. And I pray tonight that you'll be sensitive and say, I'm going to do what God wants me to do, and let's all of us do something tonight. Would you do that, brethren? I think you're ready to receive the offering. Would you stand, please? We've already prayed. We'll enjoy the offertory, and you give tonight as the God has blessed and prospered you. And I know He'll continue to do so. All right, brethren. Let's sing one more chorus before we get into the Word. Keep me, Jesus, as the apple of thine eye. I just felt like singing that all day today. Would you help me? Keep me, Jesus, as the apple of thine eye. Oh, I will bear the shadow of thy wings. Keep your hand on the rest of God. Victorious singing. Can we do it one more time? Come on, everyone. Keep me, Jesus, as the apple of thine Let's see how many you got. Good, good, good. Now, whatever you do, read it, so you don't miss anything that's going on. Just a couple of things I want to really point out. I am really excited about the ministry of the storehouse. How many have never been to the storehouse? Let's see your hand. You've never been. Really? You never have? Folks, you're missing it. You really are. How many know where the bookstore is? All right next to the bookstore, just north, is the storehouse. And you're in for a surprise. If you think, well, it's just a bunch of junk, you just wait and see what those ladies have done. It's better than LS Airs. Cheaper. Isn't that right, ladies? Sure it is. And they've always got something exciting going on. Now, as you know, we need your help in our missionary effort, and that's what the storehouse is all about. It's to supply and to help in the work that we're doing in our orphanages. I've just come from visiting both orphanages in Mexico, and we need clothing for children between the ages of 4 and 12 or 13. And if you've got clothing that children in that age span can use, and remember, we do not need winter clothing. We do not need any winter coats or anything like that because it doesn't get cold. So we'd like for you the best place to do is to take it to the storehouse, and the ladies there will take care of it. The other announcement that I want to emphasize is that one up there in that big square that says Missions is the Heartbeat of Calvary. And next week, next Thursday night, we start our missionary convention, and we have all Spirit-filled men that are going to be here and families. We've got the Nielsen's. I think there's a typographical error. It's not Charles Nelson. That should be Nielsen. But that's a real good announcement telling us a little bit of what will be taking place. And we've got some really exciting things for Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and all day on Sunday. So whatever you do, don't miss this. I think the rest of it you can look at. Grandmas and grandpas, don't forget, April the 30th, Agape Force will be with us, and Sunday night, well, a lot of good things. How many brought your Bibles? Let's see. Hold them up high. Real high. Let's see how many came to church tonight. Good. That's beautiful. All right, let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Didn't Paul do a good job last week? And his study is available. And you can get them right after church tonight. This is the 14th lesson in 1978. The 7th chapter of 1 Corinthians. The next couple of studies, I'm going to be telling you from the Word what every man ought to know about a woman. From the Word. You say, are you an expert? No, but how many know the Word's an expert? And then I'm going to tell you what the Word says, what every woman ought to know about a man. And don't want you to miss that. And then I'm going to be announcing the exact Thursday night that I'm going to be talking. I'll announce it at least 2 weeks ahead so you can make arrangements, and we're going to try to make some arrangements here at the church. I'll be talking to the staff, and I'm going to be talking very candidly and very straightforthly about what the Bible has to say about sex before marriage and after marriage. What does the Bible say about it? What does God think about it? And you're going to hear me talk about as plainly as you've ever heard anyone talk. I believe it's time that we really know what God's Word has to say about it. So we will. I'll let you know ahead of time. All right? 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Have you got it? Let's read verses 1 through 5. You follow with me. Now, concerning the things about which you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto the wife her due. And by the way, he's talking about sex. And likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife hath not power of her own body, but the husband. Likewise also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. Verse 5, you ought to draw a circle around this, both men and women. Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time. In other words, one person is not to withhold sex in marriage from the other one unless there's mutual consent. It's not something that can be unilaterally done. It's not the man saying, no, I'm not going to render to you your due, or can the woman say, I'm not going to render to you your due. The only exception is this, that it be with consent for a time, that you may give yourselves to what? Fasting and prayer. And then do what? What's the Bible say? Read it to me. Come together again. Why? So that Satan can't get in. The number one cause, other than if you put a lot of the emphasis on just general spiritual things, the number one cause for divorce is misunderstanding in sex matters. The number two cause is finance. And here the Apostle Paul talks about it. I just use that by way of introduction tonight, and you'll understand why here in just a little bit. Can you find the book of Ecclesiastes? Now, I'll tell you what you're going to have to do. It's going to be important that you start in the Old Testament. Find the Psalms, and then go to the Proverbs, and it's the next book, Ecclesiastes. And I'll read just one verse, and it summarizes the whole 3rd chapter. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Let me read that again. Let's all read it. Will you follow with me? Read it out loud. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. All right? Now let's turn to Romans. You can find that a little better. I waited on some of you, and by the time we finished reading it, you'd found it. But Romans chapter 12. And instead of going to verse 7, let's look at verse 9. Now I'll read and you follow with me. This is Romans 12, verse 9. Let love be without hypocrisy. Abhor that which is evil, cling to that which is good. Be kindly affection one to another with brotherly love, in honor preferring one another, not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing diligently in prayer, distributing to the necessity of saints, given to the hospitality. Bless them who persecute you, bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much as lies in you, live peaceably with all men. Sometimes it's not possible. I won't turn to Revelation chapter 2, verses 4 and 5. It simply warns, it's a warning to the church about leaving first love and about repenting and coming back to it. Here you'll see the outline that I'm using tonight. I'm going to give you 8. The subject tonight is the marriage cycle. And regardless of where you are in the cycle, it's important you write this down because you'll be affected by it. Everyone in this room will be affected by what I'm going to say. The first part of this study together, I'm going to give you 8 stages in this marriage cycle. And every married couple in this room I'll locate you someplace in this marriage cycle. 8 stages to the marriage cycle. Then the second part of our outline, I'm going to be dealing with 8 dangers that there are, particularly in the middle years. And you'll understand what I'm talking about when I say the middle years in just a little bit. 8 dangers. Do you know that the first most critical years in your marriage are after you've been married between 8 and 12 years? They say that something like 80% of all the divorces happen between the 8th and the 12th year of marriage. In the last 8 or 9 years, there's been a tremendous upswing in divorce after people have been married 25 years. A tremendous upswing in the divorce rate. And there's some reasons why. And then I will share 6 things with you concerning making the most of what we'll call the middle years in marriage. So there is something for you young folks because you're headed there. There's something for you middle people because you are there. And there's something for you older folks because you've just been there. Okay? Now, have you got your pencils ready? Let me give you the 8 stages in marriage. The first stage, you can write it down, is what we're going to call courtship and engagement. That time just prior to marriage, but you are committed to it. There are certain qualities and characteristics that's always present during that stage. I can't name all of them. We'd be here all night. So I'm just going to reach in and pick out one, maybe 2 in some cases, but for the most part, one outstanding characteristic in each one of the stages. And then you can add the others to it and think seriously about it. But here is one of the outstanding characteristics during this particular time. Blind to the faults of the other. So much in love that you don't see the weaknesses and the fault the other one has. They didn't get that weakness and fault the minute after you married them. They had it all the time. And you want to be very, very careful because you're not going to change it. Say, oh, when I marry them, they're going to be different. Yeah, worse. I want to tell you something. If that guy doesn't go to church now, young lady, and you're engaged to him, don't you ever think that it's going to be easier after you marry him. And if there are times when he or she has got a violent temper, don't you think because you marry them that they're going to be any different. Or if they're lying to you now, don't think just because you marry them that that's going to keep them from lying to you. Those qualities and characteristics are there. And you better listen to some people that are at least throwing up warnings. And most of all, you better talk to God and be sure that you understand what you're doing. There is something about love that is blind. Now, I'm not expecting too many amens tonight. You know, just sort of ride through the storm. We'll get through after a while. So there is a very, very serious and an important stage. And I'd like to say this to you with love, but firmly. If you don't have a strong, pure, absolute conviction in this part of your life that you're doing the will of God, you better back off. There's a lot things worse, a lot worse than not being married. And I'll tell you one thing that's worse than not being married. That's being married to the wrong person. Because you may think, well, I can get in. If I don't like it, I can get out. But you can't have God's blessing on your life. You'll pay a price for it. Marriage is not a plaything. Marriage is an institution ordained of God. God is a forgiver and He's a grace giver, but God is also just and righteous. Stage number one. How many will be glad when I get off of that? Okay? And the big thing, I say we could name a whole bunch of characteristics, but I'm only going to pick out one in each one of these. And the big thing is this: blind, self-deceived. There's a lot of things that causes it. Loneliness, a desire for contact, physical appetite, a desire for security, peer pressure. All kinds of things put pressure on. But I want to tell you something. When we are so blinded that we hook ourselves up knowing full well that the problem is there, we will sow to the wind and reap a whirlwind. If I could tell you of the dozens of people that I have been in contact with as a pastor who have said, oh, I would to God that I would not have made the decision I made. I was so much better off before. Okay. Now that sounds so negative, but I want to tell you this, that for everyone that has a battle, there are 100 that don't have it. So don't let me discourage you. Number 2, here's the second stage. From marriage up to the first pregnancy. From marriage until the news comes that there's a child on the way. That's the next stage. And every couple in here, every couple that's blessed with a family, they know that the moment they get married until that child comes, when that child comes, their whole manner of life changes the moment they know that the wife is pregnant and they're expecting a family. The whole thing takes on a new characteristic and a new quality, and now there is something completely different as far as the marriage is concerned. And during this time, there is a great deal of excitement, a great deal of anxiety. There are a lot of plans and a lot of dreams. There are many, many other problems, but that is the chief characteristic. Excitement, plans. We've got a family coming. We've got to make plans. We've got to arrange. We've got to really knuckle down. We've got to watch. There are a few that get mad. I'm not talking about the exception. How blessed it is, and when it can be so arranged and so planned that the pregnancy doesn't come 9 months after the marriage or 6 months. One-third of all people that I marry are already pregnant. Did you hear what I said? I'm not talking about someone's statistics. I'm talking about my own. 30% of all the people I marry are already expecting. Stage number 3. From parenthood or the parents of preschool children. And parents that have preschool children are beginning to feel very definitely two things. They're beginning to feel a tremendous sense of responsibility, and they're beginning to feel a certain amount of restriction. And that spirit of responsibility and restriction begins to put pressure on the marriage. Because as those children grow, the responsibility gets stronger and stronger on each member. And if they're not very, very strong in assuming that responsibility, it isn't long until one doesn't want the responsibility and tries to push it off on the other. The dad doesn't want it, so he says, you take care of it. And the mother is afraid of it and says, well, you don't help. And then there's contention and strife because they're facing responsibility and there is a restrictiveness to it. I no longer can do as I please and say as I please. And every action that I have and attitude that I have is being monitored and reflected in that little one that's coming up at my feet. Stage number 4, parents of school children. Now there's competition. The whole spirit and how we need to spend time dealing with this, because it's at this point that children become a real force in the home, sometimes for divisiveness, because the mother's time is taken away, and sometimes she wants the dad to get more involved, and sometimes the dad gets too much involved, and there becomes a competitiveness. And sometimes it's a matter of favoritism where the dad now favors a daughter or favors a son, or the mother favors a son or a daughter. Or sometimes the son and the daughter becomes a pawn between the differences of mother and dad. And there comes a spirit of competitiveness that's there. And I want to tell you something, it's there in every home. Don't think you're the only one that has it. It comes in every home. The only way there's victory is for people to recognize it and handle it carefully. The parents of school children. Then the parents of adolescents. That's stage number 5. That's when they get up to the teens, when all of a sudden they are neither kids nor adults. The most critical time in your home is when your child reaches 12 or 13. From there till they're 20, it's critical. Because they are trying to find themselves. They want to think for themselves. They don't want, there's a rebellion that comes. They're trying to reach out. One minute they are an adult, and about the time you adjust to their being an adult, they're back up to be a little child again. And now you're afraid. Every mother's afraid her daughter is going to be pregnant. Every mother is afraid that her son, every time that he goes out, is going to come back, is going to be in trouble, or the knock on the door is going to be a policeman. Or they're going to be smoking, or they're going to be drinking, or they're going to be doing some other things that they've seen their parents do. It's at that point sometimes that they throw a rebellion about coming to the house of God. And I want to say something to you about coming to the house of God. You want to be careful about being critical around your children when they are preschool on up, because you are making an impression over whether or not they're going to respect the preacher, whether or not they're going to respect the teacher, whether or not they're going to respect the house of God. Now, I may be in trouble, but we've come through a time that we call that era of when the hippies came, where it was to wear not just casual clothes, but it was to wear clothes that in some cases was tremendously disrespectful. Thank God we're done with that. And I pray God, and I want to say this to you parents and to you young folks that are here. If you honor God's house, you'll come to God's house dressed up as well as you would be dressed to go anyplace. It's an expression of honor. I think it's a terrible thing for people to say, well, you know, I'm going to be like this, but if I was going to go someplace where I want to show respect, I'll dress up. But when we come to church, we look like something the dogs drug in. I think we got the place now where we need to teach our children and our young folks that when they come into God's house, we may not come in with the finest, but let's come in with the best we've got. Someone say amen. There is a respect out in the world, in the business world, that the business world demands. And did you ever stop to think that when you join an army, how strict the army is? The army tells you how to dress. If you don't think so, you join the army and come someday and say, I don't think I'm going to wear that uniform. I decided, Mr. Sergeant, that I'm going to wear a pair of coveralls today. He'll knock the fire out of you. Won't he, Gene? Gene was a Marine. He knows. How would you like to bounce up to the sergeant and say, I don't believe I'm joining the army, but I don't believe that I want my hair cut. Just don't think I want that. You'd be the most bald-headed private there was in a long time. Say, what are you trying to say? I'm trying to say this, that anything that demands that demands respect, anything that's worthy of respect demands respect. And the way you and I enter the house of the Lord is an indicator of how much we respect God. You know what the Bible says concerning honoring the man of God? It says, honor him for his work's sake. I don't like some little kid walking up to me and say, hi, Paul. Say, well, I don't like you. Well, I am pastor. Honor for the work's sake. Every soldier, again, knows that he doesn't salute the man. He salutes the office. No matter who the man is, it's what he represents. And when we learn that in God's house, we'll walk differently. We won't have to paint the walls every 12 months. All right. I lost part of you. Adolescence. Contention. Frustration. The parent doesn't understand the teenager doesn't understand the parent. You've all heard the story of the young man that thought his dad was such a dumbbell when he was 13, and he was amazed when he reached 21 how much his dad had learned in 7.5 years. Then stage number 6, the parents of children leaving home. And here is the predominant problem when children reach that place where they're thinking about they're going to move out. Here it is, fear. Total change of attitude. My little darling. They may be 25, but they're going to get out in a cold, cold world. Some parents say, oh, I wish they would go, and all the time they're saying that because they know they are going to go and they're protecting themselves. Tremendous fear. What's going to happen? I don't have a control anymore. Stage number 7. The empty nest until you retire. And here's the big struggle. Loneliness and a feeling of uselessness. Parents, once all the children are gone and they're home all by themselves. My mother raised 8 of us children and always had people living in the home. When she baked pies, she never baked less than 6 pies at a time. Always 6 pies. When she baked cakes, always at least 2 cakes. That's the reason she had a trial cake. Didn't have box cakes. When she would mash potatoes, it was in a great big pan, mashed potatoes. Gravy, half gallon of milk. She put bread on the table, 2 loaves. Well, we'd go through 2 loaves of bread. 1 meal, go through a pound of butter. And finally, all of us moved out. And we still laugh about it when she invited us home one time. And just Sister Paino and I went home to be with Mother and Dad. About everybody was gone. 6 pies. 2 cakes. Mashed potatoes. said, Mother, who in the world are you expecting? She says, you know, honey, I just can't learn to cook for any less. My poor dad ate potato cakes for a week. Loneliness. I don't know how to say this, but one of the tragedies of our society is that when folks reach the period of time when they're no longer, the children are no longer home, it's so easy for them to be completely forgotten, and we say, let the government take care of them. And I know I'm in trouble. I thank God for every nursing facility and every nursing home that's doing a good job. But I'm telling you the truth, there are some places that are hell holes. And I don't care who knows it. And then stage number 8, retirement to the death of one spouse. Then the marriage relationship is over. And unless there is an awareness built into us as Christians, those last years that ought to be happy years and secure years and years of blessing can be years of tragedy and heartache and heartbreak. And let's don't ever forget that those of us that may be in stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wherever it is, one day you'll be in stage 7 and 8. And whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap. Now, those are the 8 stages. I don't know where you are, but God help us to see that these changes come, and unless we're willing to recognize them and think about them, sometimes we're not able to make the change. And when we come through these stages, there's tremendous contention that's brought into our lives and into our homes. And instead of family being brought together, there's a divisiveness. That's the reason we need the house of God. We need a place where the Holy Spirit can keep a sanctifying work in our hearts so that we don't get caught off in these things. We need to build a strong, stable church so our families can be stabilized to come through these stages. Can you say amen? All right. Now, the dangers, and please get these, and every one of you need to get them, because here is where the hassles are, and let me give them to you. Danger number 1, preoccupation. Let me explain. It's where one or both partners in the marriage become occupied and absorbed and consumed with something else until the other partner is pushed into a secondary position. Mothers, that can happen with your children. Other than our relationship with God, if we let something else so preoccupy us that our mate falls to a second place, we are headed for trouble. Danger sign is there. There is nothing any more important than keeping that relationship right and not being preoccupied with something else. Make time for your family. Make time for your wife. Make time for your husband. Make time. And don't use the silly excuse that you're going to do it on the time that you ought to be in God's house together. Number 2, nagging. Getting on something and writing it day and night. You say only women do that. No, men do it. We can all be naggers. It's like being tied down and a drip of water fall on your head. Every morning when I get up, it's the first thing. Every night when I go to bed, it's the last thing.
Every meal it comes up, every time I turn around, every conversation's turned to it, twisted around to it. And it's nag, it's do this, and it's do that. And after a while, it's no longer the thing that's to be done that's important. Now it's the fact over, if I do it, I am subjecting myself to the nagging, and I'm not going to do it. And then the battle comes. He doesn't even care. Or she doesn't even care. Nagging. Number 3, boredom. Bored. No longer any excitement. In my job, I'm no longer excited. I'm not excited in my relationship with my home. I am bored. I'm tired. I don't care. You can always tell someone that's bored because they become careless very often about themselves, or about their home, about spiritual matters. About their appearance. Bored. Become lazy. When you're bored, you become tired, weary. Want to lay down, sit down. Sit and stare at the television. I'll tell you, if the most exciting thing that ever happens around your home and in your life is a television set, you're doomed. %90 of our homes would be a lot farther down the road if we disconnected that thing. I didn't think I'd ever preach against it, but I'm about to. Boredom. Number 4, taking each other for granted. Never do anything special. Never do anything a little extra. Never notice what's being done. The husband comes in and is never thankful for the good meal. Never says that was a great meal. My wife cooked for us tonight, and I said, honey, I don't know why we ever go to a restaurant. Boy, I got more brownie points than you can imagine for it. And I meant it. Taking each other for granted. Say, fella, do you ever stop to think what a miserable job, dirty socks? Or did you ever stop to think how irritating it must be to wash the ring out around your bathtub? Or wife, have you tried any new perfume lately? Some real holy Joe bounced up one time to a preacher in a condemning spirit and said, preacher, you're proud. I can smell you use perfume, don't you? Preacher smiled and said yes, and he smelled and said, and I see you don't. Number 5, the danger of going separate ways. Do you know that that can happen as children of God, going your own way? This is one reason we try to urge husbands and wives to get in a Sunday school class together and teach the class together. We try to urge husbands and wives to get in the choir together. We try to urge husbands and wives to get in the bus ministry together, to do it together. I know some people that have deteriorated to the place that they take their vacations separately. Now, there are times when you go places separately, but when that's the way your life is planned, there's something bad wrong. Number 6, belittling the mate, putting them down, rather than edifying them. And one of the best put-downs in all the world is say, I wish you were like somebody else. Or why do you have to be like this? Or threatening them by anger. Number 7, the unconscious punishing of the mate. Oh, such things to just give them the quiet treatment. Say, well, have you done anything? I haven't done anything. Just the quiet treatment. And number 8, I'm talking about dangers now, guilt feelings. It's an amazing thing how many people, particularly in their relationship together, hide back inside of them guilt feelings that begin to build walls up. Little sneaky things that have happened, little subtle things that have taken place that nobody ever puts a finger on and nobody knows anything about it. But they are little attitudes and little feelings and little reactions that are devastating to the relationship. And then the guilt feelings come. And with it there's resentment that comes, and there is a biting and a barking that comes. And very, very often there are people that are very antagonistic in their relationship, or antagonistic because their conscience is bothering them about something. When you've got a good, clean conscience, usually there's peace. How many are listening at me? How many are glad I'm saying some of the things I'm saying? How many are getting mad at some of the things I'm saying? Okay. Red Rosenthal, I knew I was hitting him, I could tell. Everybody picks on Red. Now, number 3, making the most of the middle years. And let me give you 6 things here real quickly. You say they're silly, are they? Not really. Keep romance alive. And if you don't care for it and feed it and nurture it, it'll die. Over and over and over and over and over again, people come to me and say, I don't love them. I have fallen out of love. Well, that will happen to anybody if romance is not kept alive. And I would be a stupid man to stand up here and suggest ways that you can keep romance alive. Because if you're so stupid you don't know how, you are really stupid. Number 2, keep physically fit. That's a tough one. Number 3, keep attractive. Stay up to date. Nothing wrong with that. Some of the ugliest people I know are tremendously attractive. Number 4, keep communication open. Do you know that you can get into the habit of shutting out and of not listening and of not communicating until after a while about all that goes on is a grunt here or there? Yeah, yeah, Sometimes men wonder why their wives talk so much. They're just hoping that in all of the talking that somehow there'll be a reply. Keep communication open. I had a lady to come into the office last week, and for about 15 minutes she talked 50 miles an hour. And it was really kind of humorous. And the reason I say that, she's in church tonight, and I know her well enough to know she doesn't care. And after she just talked 50 miles an hour, she jumped up and she says, Brother Paino, that's all I wanted. And I said, well, she says, that's all I want. I just want somebody to listen. She says, thank you very much. And before I could even pray, she just got up and walked out. Now, if her husband would have just listened, I wouldn't have had to waste that 15 minutes. I'm not asking you to raise your hand, but how many of us over and over again have said, oh, I just wish that I could talk to someone that would listen? Have you ever started to talk to someone and you didn't get 3 sentences out until they were telling you about their own problem? They weren't listening to you at all. They didn't care a rip about you. There have been times when I've gone around preachers and I've wanted so much just to brag on the Lord what He was doing for us. And I'd start to say, do you know what the Lord did for us in Calvary Temple last Sunday? And that's as far as I'd get. Say, well, isn't that wonderful? Let me tell you what He's done for us. And I've just learned after a while. I just go home and I say to my wife, now, honey, I'm going to tell you what the Lord's done for us. Did you ever go try to tell someone you weren't feeling good, and before you could get it out, they were telling you about their operation? Keep communication open. Do you know you may be surprised how smart your husband is if you just talk to him? He's not nearly as dumb as he looks. Keep communication open. Number 5, keep growing together. Don't get in a rut. If you're still doing the same thing you did 5 years ago, you better check up. You know what a rut is? It's a grave with both ends kicked out. You mean that you're no more exciting? That you're still thinking the same thing? Still going the same places? You've not involved yourself in anything else? Same old thing? Wife, go in there and change the living room around. Hang the piano from the ceiling or do something. Got any hobbies? Any interest? What about spiritual activity? Are you doing something together spiritually? May I pause here and say something? One of the great danger zones is this, is that, believe this or not, that spiritual things can become a source of tremendous antagonism. And I'm going to be dealing with this perhaps next Thursday night that I speak, because sometimes when a wife becomes more spiritual in her desires and in her growth than her husband won't admit it, but he becomes jealous of it. And sometimes the woman uses that more spiritual sensitiveness to lord it over her husband and says, I am better than you because why aren't you more spiritual? I wish you would lead us in prayer. Why don't you ever read the Bible? How's come it's not you? And then the husband puts up a rebellion. Not because he doesn't want to be spiritual, but because he doesn't want his wife to be usurping authority. Keep growing together. Do things together and leave the kids someplace else. Because I want to tell you something, Mom, Dad. If your youngster finds someone that really strikes their fancy, they'll go. Maybe the reason they're still there is because they haven't found the person yet. So don't let them control your life. Number 6, renew your marriage. If you only had one honeymoon, I hear some old boy speak up and said, I haven't had any yet. Back when I first started preaching, they used to talk about sanctification as the second definite work of grace. And that used to be a term that was used, second definite work of grace. How many know what I'm talking about when I say that? All right, there are about 20 of you in the audience do. And I had a brother one time to walk up to me and he says, I want to know if you received the second blessing yet. And I said, brother, the second blessing? What you talking about? I knew what he was talking about. I was teasing him. He was talking about the second definite work of grace. Do you want to know if I'd received the second blessing? I said, no, I haven't received the second blessing. I'm on about my 2000th one by now. and you've only had one honeymoon, you've been missing everything in life if you're stuck with only one honeymoon. You say, I can't afford more than one honeymoon. You can't afford to have only one honeymoon. So, oh, I wish my wife was as lovely and sweet as she was when I first married her. Most probably, if you treat her the way you did when you first married her, she will be. All right, have you got it? 8 stages, 8 warnings, and 6 things that we can do to have victory all through our marriage. And all the people said, amen. How many agree I did better tonight than I've done yet? Look at your watch. Isn't that real good? Let's give the Lord a praise offering. How many tonight have been made to think of some things that you just really haven't stopped to think about in maybe a long time? May I see your hand? Good. How many agree with me tonight that these sessions that we're having together in our family units are a blessing to all of us? Do you feel like they are? Praise the Lord. Let's stand together and sing Blessed Assurance, Jesus is Mine. And if you're standing next to your partner tonight, in any one of the 8 stages, take hold of their hand. I saw a couple of kids get out of the way of mom and dad. That's good. Reach over and take them by the hand. And let's sing Blessed Assurance, Jesus is Mine. And while you're holding on to your husband or wife, just sort of squeeze it a little. Do something. Pull on her thumb or twist her little finger. Tap her 3 times. It says, I love you. Honey, that's what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Blessed Assurance, Jesus is mine.